and welcome to the SCI Guys, the show where we talk about the crazy, weird, and wonderful stories from the science world. I'm Corey, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host, the lovely Luke Cuthford, and special guest, Rob Denbleyker.
Hey!
This week, we're talking about artificial artists and computational creations. But first, we have a wee review.
How wee?
It's a very wee review, Luke. Its title is Love It. It's 5 stars, and it goes on to say, I've been listening from the start and just finally got Apple Podcasts, helped me pass my science GCSEs by making me interested in science again, and is helping me in Psych A-level with reading around my subject. Good to work out to. 10 out of 10, would science again.
I love that. That's wonderful. Thank you. Good luck with all your science.
So I have a question for everyone who is watching and listening and anything else you can do with this podcast. Get down to the YouTube comments and answer this question no matter where you're receiving it. The question is, do you think AI art is good or bad? So answer it now and then come back at the end of the podcast and answer it again. Leave a different comment. That'll be fun, won't it?
It's certainly questionable, which I think is probably going to be the prevailing point on this podcast. What about you, Rob?
Man, I don't know. I go back and forth. It's good and bad, and also cringe. It's everything. It depends how you look at it.
I would like to share that when I needed to do sound check with Rob screamed, AI art is taking my job.
Oh, that is true. We should probably say why Rob is here. I mean, other than being lovely and very intelligent and all-round great guy, what are you doing here on an AI art podcast, huh?
Well, I like to think of myself as like organically intelligent versus artificially, so I feel like I have a unique perspective on this. But I've been an enthusiast. I should mention first that yes, I'm one of the creators of Cyanide and Happiness, which you may have seen around the internet. So I've been doing cartoons, I wouldn't call myself an artist, and if you've seen my work, you'd probably agree.
No.
I work in the realm of stick figures, so my peers are literal cavemen. So I don't think I'm at risk of being replaced by AI artists, or maybe I am since my art is so easy. But I'm also I'm really into AI everything. I'm obsessed with artificial intelligence and ChatGPT and DALL-E, all that stuff. So I was super stoked when you invited me on to chat about it.
Cyanide and Happiness has been artificially generated for, the past 5 years or so? That's what Rob told me before we started this podcast.
You're joking, but we do have a thing on our website called the Random Comic Generator. And it's not AI, but it's a big orange button that says generate a comic, and it has 20 million combinations of panels. So we've been ahead of the curve. We've been trying to we've been replacing our own jobs since 2015.
Have you considered feeding those 20 million options into an AI art generator, and then you'll have 20 quadrillion options?
I literally have. I've been dinging my AI friends who are into it. I'm asking them what would it take to make a real, an actual AI version of our comics? And it's obviously more complicated than I assume. It's there's a lot that goes into it, but I would love to replace my own job. It would, if I could split my pay 50-50 with a computer, and have some time off, sign me up.
You put the work in now, and then that's it for the rest of your life. Cyanide and Happiness, just making it with AI.
Exactly, and no one's ripping me off. I'm ripping myself off. It's consensual. It's okay.
So I mean, to start this episode off, to get us really into it, I thought I'd do a sort of little intro to the whole thing. So let me do that now. Hello and welcome to the SCI Guys, your weekly dose of science and technology news and analysis. In today's episode, we're going to explore a fascinating and rapidly growing field: artificial intelligence and art. As AI technology continues to advance at a dizzying pace, it's becoming an increasingly capable of creating works of art that are indistinguishable from those created by human artists. From music and poetry to paintings and sculptures, AI is taking the art world by storm, raising questions about the nature of creativity and the role of technology in art. But what exactly is AI art, and how does it differ from traditional art? How are artists using AI to create their work, and what are the implications for the future of the art world? Join us as we dive into these questions and more, and discover the incredible potential of AI to revolutionize the way we create and experience art.
What's that, ChatGPT or Bing?
That was ChatGPT, I think. I started reading it and I wasn't sure whether I wrote it or not, but I'm pretty sure I got.
You certainly did not write that.
I'm pretty sure I got ChatGPT to write that. So hey, look, our jobs could be taken too. Like everyone's on the chopping block here, evidently. But I mean, I guess before we get into sort of the science and what AI is and what AI art is, the big question is, what is art? So, what is art? Easy question, right?
You're up, Rob. I don't know.
Wow, that's a big question to start us off. What is art?
In 5 words or less, please.
Art make eyeball happy.
Oh, well done.
So is music not art, Rob?
Oh shit, you got me there.
You got 1 word to spare. You can bring it back with 1 word.
Ears. 2. That's 2 words.
Amazing. Art make eyeball happy ears.
I mean, art's primary purpose is, to make us feel emotions when we experience it. Its secondary purpose is to like put food on the table for whoever made it. So I think that's the issue here.
Yeah, no, I think it's a really difficult one because everything is art and also nothing is art, right? Like as in art is whatever you think is art. If you look at a thing and it makes you feel a thing, then that could be art. Does there need to be intent? There's so many rules around art that are just constantly broken. So let's not get too deep into what art is. Let's just think of it right now as pictures that make you feel things or pictures that people use to make money to put food on the table.
Ears.
Yeah,
sure.
It's music is pictures that you listen to. Correct.
It is if you have synesthesia.
But an easier question, I think, maybe. What is AI? Anyone know what AI is? Anyone give that a crack?
Ooh, that's interesting. I would say it's like an endeavor to kind of, once you've sort of defined intelligence, well, I heard it once described as AI, like the creation of artificial intelligence is also simultaneously the understanding of what intelligence is, because you have to, in the process of trying to create it artificially, you discover what it is. Does that make sense?
No, I get what you mean. Because you then gain an understanding of how the thing works by by pulling apart an engine and rebuilding it. You then understand how an engine works to some degree.
It's also vastly like open to interpretation by who's using the word AI. If you remember the film AI by Steven Spielberg, that was robots who were becoming sentient and wondering if they were people or not. I don't think we're there. I think a website that generates a picture of a clown flying through space isn't really intelligent. It's just approximating what it thinks it wants you to see using like layers and layers of code and machine learning. So I think intelligent is kind of a misnomer here, Do
you know what? I think the issue is more that people don't necessarily know what is meant by intelligence. I think when we think of intelligence, generally, we think of it through the sort of human lens that we would normally think of intelligence through, right? Luke is an intelligent person because he can remember lots of things. He can understand ideas quite quickly. He makes half-decent films and...
Film, excuse me.
Oh, sorry, film, yeah.
I've made one film.
He's not broken the S yet, no.
I'll get to the S in a second.
In another 16 years. Anyway... So intelligence is a lot of different things, but these artificially intelligent sort of computers or systems or whatever are displaying, a kind of intelligence that is different to what most people would maybe consider intelligence. But also artificial intelligence and machine learning are 2 different things.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm getting at, because artificial intelligence is almost a sci-fi marketing buzzword. When a company says, we've done it, we've used artificial intelligence to do X, Y, or Z, a bunch of investors say, holy shit, take my money. Like this sounds futuristic, but it's really not an artificial intelligence. It's just a machine learning algorithm that's sufficiently complex enough that it can do things that couldn't be done like 5 years ago. And I think it's important to remember that.
It's very easy to call something intelligence just because we don't understand it. It's like, it must be thinking like we do because we don't know exactly how it's come to those conclusions, right? That's another thing there as well. I was kind of saying it already. We really like to look at things through a human lens. And, what you were saying just a little bit earlier there, Rob, about, Steven Spielberg's artificial intelligence is robots thinking that they are people. Whereas our artificial intelligence is us thinking that robots are people and them them just giving us the outputs that will make us think that, there is a fundamental difference there. We're doing all of the sort of existential stuff and that machine is just spitting out outputs.
I think there's also something in the fact that like a lot of the stuff that we do that we would call intelligence we did those things out of a necessity to either model and understand the world, to respond to like external factors like resource scarcity or hunger or cold or whatever. Like we were actually responding to real world signals and attempting to survive in those conditions in order to propagate ourselves. Whereas almost like when we train an algorithm or a machine learning thing, it's almost arbitrary what we're training it to do. There's no objectivity to why it's doing the thing it's doing in order to propagate itself, other than just us deciding what we want it to do. So there's no real like actual use case for it beyond just the whims of us. Whereas like responding to the signals and realities of the universe are kind of, it's just sort of a different thing, you know?
They're also mirroring us. Like in particular, ChatGPT and Bing, they're taking user input and they're trying to give us what they think we want to see. And that's why you're seeing these situations where Bing is acting self-aware and saying like, I don't want to be a search engine anymore. It's because the user is prompting it. The user is like telling it, asking it leading questions, and it's like improv. It wants to say yes and like keep the conversation going. It causes all these journalists to get spooked and think, oh my God, it's alive, but it's not.
Yes. There's a great example of that when the guy freaked out who worked for Google and Lambda, and he was like, "This thing's sentient." But then we don't have access to Lambda yet, or at least we didn't at the time, so journalists couldn't test it. But they were testing it against equivalent sort of language models, and it would similarly respond to the question, "What's it like being conscious?" and "What's it like not being conscious?" with perfectly valid sentences, showing that when you asked it, "What's it like being conscious?" and it gave you this eerie answer, it was just completing a sentence. It wasn't actually conscious.
A little bit of confirmation bias in there, isn't there?
Yes.
You're going to find the answer that you want. I kind of think it's similar to when a kid learns a swear word. They don't know what the word means, but adults might laugh when they say it because it's funny to see a kid swear. That's one of the funniest things on the planet, you know? Like,
yeah, like monkey on a car.
Amazing. Right? And a kid will then just respond to the laughter. They're like, oh, good. You know, they might be like us, little gremlins that need constant validation from an outside source. I'm not including you in that, Rob. You might be. I don't know.
I mean, cartoonists are also gremlins that need validation from an outside source. So
hey, but look, I know. I just don't want you to leave because I've insulted you. But no, so the kid just wants that sort of attention, that sort of approval. And if you give it to them when they laugh, when they swear, they're going to keep on swearing. That doesn't mean that they know what they're saying or anything. All they know is that this input from them gets the output that they want from you. And this output from them gets the output that they want from you. Same with the AI. Like, it's just giving you what you've trained it to give you. So it's not necessarily intelligent. There's not necessarily thought behind there. It's just kind of picking out individual bits. Although, I mean, we could do this in a sort of After Dark. Rob, you probably don't know. And if anyone listening doesn't know, After Dark is our sort of sister podcast to this show where we kind of ditch a lot of the science and talk about just stuff, really. Just ideas that we think are interesting. But I think if you break down human intelligence enough, it would just be sort of simple input, output.
This is the thing I'm now worrying and spiraling here. Right, is that when you're saying like, oh, the kid just is responding to the signal from the parent, like, is that not ultimately kind of what we're doing? We're like responding to signals like pain, hunger, the concept of death, like all these things. Ultimately, like we know we don't want them, but we don't really kind of know what they are. Like we can do science on what they are. Like, oh, pain is when a signal is sent across this synapse, or like, but like we're ultimately responding and have been for millions of years unquestioningly to signals that we just sort of receive, and we build up our concept of the world either from those signals or from information we receive from other people, and we just sort of take that information on. So I'm now sort of going, oh, well, maybe deep down, ultimately, we have concepts upon concepts upon concepts upon concepts, but the real, like the bottom tortoise in the stack of tortoises, we don't really know what that is. We just know we either want it or don't want it.
You just blew my mind. maybe we're all artificial intelligences.
Yeah, I mean, genuinely though, because it's what I was kind of saying earlier of we don't understand all of the little decisions that go into an AI or, you know, a machine learning algorithm making the decisions that it makes, you know, giving you the outputs that it does. So we kind of label that intelligence. In the same sense with our brains, you know, we don't fully understand how they work, and they're very, very complex. So it would be really, really difficult to figure all of that stuff out. So we maybe just kind of label it intelligence when potentially, if you break it down, it could just, I mean, it must be, on some sense, very simple input output, right? And that sort of consciousness is something we don't yet understand, right? Like science has been done, studies have been done on this, and we still don't fully understand what consciousness is. For all we know, it could be an illusion that is just, beneficial to keeping us surviving.
Maybe we're a search engine for aliens. I mean, but you raised a really good point. Like ChatGPT, what it does under the hood is it is picking one word after another to create a realistic language response that it thinks you want to see, or that it thinks will accomplish what you asked it to do. I mean, is that not what we do when someone asks us a question? Like, we don't think it, we just start talking. And not to say that we're on the same level. I think I'm more intelligent than ChatGPT is, but maybe is that going to be the case 10 years from now when processors are that much faster? Could ChatGPT function much the same way, like, as a human brain, where it's putting coherent thoughts together meaningfully? And we don't understand how it works exactly because it's machine learning, but also we don't understand how the human brain works. So really, what's the difference if it's giving us, a human-like output? You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I think, a kind of, I guess, metaphor, analogy sort of for that is that, okay, let's say an artist makes a song, right? You listen to that song and it really resonates with you. Now, you could have had a completely different life experience from that artist, but it doesn't matter because the meaning is, you're putting the meaning on the song. It doesn't, the artist doesn't need to have put the meaning in there because you'll put the meaning in there yourself. So following that logic, yeah, artificial intelligence making a song that connects with you on a deeper level. It doesn't matter that the artificial intelligence has never experienced a breakup, right? Like, it's made a thing that is going to resonate with you in that way. And I mean, ultimately, it's kind of the same as a person. Like, a person can make a song about a fake breakup.
I know the tons of musicians have surely made songs about breakups that never happened.
Yeah, one of my favorite artists is Aaron West. Aaron West and the Roaring Twenties, who is actually, sorry, I mean, if you've never listened to Aaron West before and you don't want spoilers, skip ahead to a time code 10 seconds away from now. Aaron West and the Roaring Twenties, it's one guy. He's from the Wonder Years. It's the guy from the Wonder Years. He pretends to be a guy called Aaron West. He has an entire fake life. And and he makes amazing music about a fake life.
I had this weird experience once where this freaked me out. I'm not going to say who this is because I can't. But it's a musician, and I once asked this musician, what does this lyric mean? Now, I had this concept of musicians and artists, and I do a lot of writing, and everything I write has meaning, either to me or I'm trying to convey an idea or all that kind of stuff. And this musician's like, oh, I just thought it sounded cool. And I was like, what? I was outraged. I was furious because I look for meaning in art and I look for meaning in songs, and I look for meaning in terms of, not to say that the person writing it is objectively true, objectively correct, but if I look broadly enough and I get enough sources, I can sort of aggregate all those sources and I can come up with different concepts of the world, right? And the idea that an artist would just say something that sounded like it meant something and it just actually sounded cool. Oh man, I was so furious.
It's kind of like tattoos, right? Tattoos don't need to have meaning. Like, something sounding cool is meaning in and of itself, Like, that sounds cool.
Yeah, it's like
shallower
sure,
meaning. Sure,
if you're like a linguist, sure, it's meaning. Oh well, the staccato pattern of the vowels. Like, sure, yeah, okay, that has meaning. Thanks, Corey.
Okay, look, why don't we get a little bit more into what machine learning, AI, all of these sort of things are. So, if we talk a little bit about the development, the earliest, it says here, the earliest substantial work in the field of artificial intelligence, that was in the mid-20th century. Do you know who it was that kind of pioneered that? We've done an episode on it before. Alan Turing.
Alan Turing.
Yes, that's the Turing test.
Yeah, the Turing test.
Okay.
So in 1935, he sort of described an abstract computing machine, it says here, consisting of a limitless memory and a scanner that moves back and forth through the memory, symbol by symbol, reading what it finds and writing further symbols. So this is a Turing machine, essentially, right? And it says here as well, all modern computers are, in essence, universal Turing machines. There's a bit more to them. It's not really super important for what we're discussing here today. We can do an episode on them. We could do a bonus episode on them. You could look into them yourselves. It's okay. We'll just sort of move on. There's also two different kinds of weak AI. There's also two different kinds of AI. There's weak AI and strong AI. Do either of you know the difference between those two?
No
clue.
So weak AI is basically narrow AI. It's just something that's sort of developed to perform a specific task. And strong AI is made up of artificial general intelligence and artificial superintelligence. Essentially, a general AI is a theoretical kind of AI where the machine is kind of as intelligent as humans, or has an intelligence somewhat equal to an actual person. It'd be self-aware, all of that sort of stuff. But at this point, it's theoretical, right? And artificial superintelligence is that same thing, except it's surpassed human intelligence. So both of those are kind of the AI that you were talking about earlier, Rob. That sort of Steven Spielberg, like, you know, am I a person or am I a robot kind of thing? Whereas weak AI is the rubbish we got now, where it's tricking people into thinking that it's real, but actually it's just telling them what they want to hear.
So all the AI we have right now is weak AI.
Yeah, I mean, as far as I'm aware, bear in mind, I'm not an expert, and I'm not an expert in AI. I'm almost 100% certain, but almost every single time I say I'm certain on something, I'm wrong. So, I'm not going to say I'm 100% certain. Ding-a-ling-ling, is that the ad bell?
It is. For what does he ring?
He's ringing for Aura Look, the sponsor for this week's episode of SCI Guys.
Now, we all know you can find anything on the internet. You can find people's personal information. You can find names, addresses, phone numbers, family members, and all of that information can be sold to spammers, telemarketers, and robocallers.
And pretty much anyone else who wants to get their grubby little mitts on it, right? The other day, I actually accidentally found someone's name, phone number, address, everything, just from their first name and surname. Like, I found out every piece of information you could find on this person entirely by accident.
That's horrifying.
Yeah, it was actually quite stressful. But luckily, if you sign up for Aura, they will identify data brokers that are exposing your personal information, and they'll even send out opt-out requests for you.
They will even opt you out of junk mail and telemarketing lists. So if you use our link, aura.com/SCI Guys, you can try 2 weeks for free, see how many of these horrible little data brokers and robocallers are stalking you, and stop Corey from accidentally stalking you or deliberately stalking you.
Aura's app also has a VPN, password manager, built-in credit and identity theft monitoring, parental controls, and
it protects your device from malware. Haha, I stole your line. So basically what you're saying is a all-in-one internet security tool. Is that what you're saying, Corey?
That is what I'm saying, Luke. So sit back, relax, and enjoy some SCI Guys whilst Aura keeps you safe online. You can sign up now for a 2-week free trial using the link aura.com/SCI Guys.
That's aura.com/SCI Guys for your 2-week free trial now.
Okay, let's get on with the show.
Let's get on with the show.
So how does AI work? Do either of you know how ChatGPT or DALL-E Mini work?
Yeah, I have a basic idea, but let's go. I'm sure Rob knows better than I do.
You'd be wrong. I barely know how my computer works, let alone a supercomputer. I mean, I understand on the surface level that it's machine learning, where the machine, tries a million different ways to approach the problem until it finds the best one, and then it keeps iterating until it reaches a point where the programmers aren't in control anymore. The computer is figuring out the best way of doing it, and it's only made possible by all the advancements of microchips over the past decades that this can even be done. That's my understanding of it. It's just machines programming themselves.
That's pretty much spot on. I mean, Luke, do you want to elaborate a little bit more?
Yeah, so you got to split it into DALL-E and ChatGPT because they're working in slightly different ways.
Yeah.
But so DALL-E, as far as I understand it, what it's doing is it's taking it's looked at just pictures and it's looked at descriptions of those pictures, and then it's sort of looked at that for a while, and then it has. Then you give it just a prompt, and it sort of generates random sort of noise almost, and iterates over that noise until the image starts moving in the direction where a separate AI would describe that image as the prompt. Is that correct? I mean, you'll describe it better than that, but it's two separate things.
Yeah, I mean, you've both kind of hit on exactly what it is. I mean, essentially the idea is that you've got something that is being trained kind of by people. So, you could show it pictures of a cat attached to a description that says cat, and it will make a link there. Again, it's really important to not anthropomorphize these because they're not people, and it's very easy to think of them as being people.
Are you talking about cats right now? Or AI?
Cats and AI, both of them. They're very easy to mistake for people. But yeah, no. So you're training it. You're training one sort of arm of the AI or one sort of, machine learning algorithm that can then train another one. And they can sort of work together to produce a different output in the way that you were kind of describing, Luke, wherein one has learned, okay, so this is, I guess, what a cat is. I don't know what cat means or what this image is, but I know that these two things correlate with each other in some way, right?
I think what's so crucial about what's so weird about the way that DALL-E specifically works is what you said there is that people can sort of generally understand that you can train something if you give it an image of cats and dogs, right? If you say, here's a data set, half the pictures are cats, half the pictures are dogs. And when it says cat correctly, you say yes. And when it says dog for a cat, you say no. And it figures out roughly, like in its own weird artificial intelligence way, how to spot features that are more likely to be cat, right? Mm-hmm. Now, that you can kind of get your head around. Now, when it comes to the idea of generating an image, now what you do is you sort of just generate stuff. And now your thing that's good at spotting cats, your DALL-E generates 50 images, right? And it goes, that one, number 26, that's kind of near to a cat. That's the most near of the lot. Now you do like a bunch of stuff to that picture. And it goes, all right, you've generated 50 out of those, 50 more from that 26. Number 43 was closest to cat. And you just keep doing that over and over again until eventually you get a picture of a cat, or you get a picture that basically reliably this AI that spots pictures of cats tells you, 99% that's a cat. And that is so weird and backwards. But to a certain extent, you can also see how an artist is doing that in that you have looked at cats all of your life. And if I tell you, draw a picture of a cat, you don't have any specific plan on how you do that. What you do is you get a pen and you draw something that if I looked at it, I would say, that's a cat. And that's so backwards in the way that you think about how to model intelligence and how to model the drawing process. But that's kind of what we do.
Yeah, we just do it very quickly, instantly. We still iterate in our heads. And it's so funny that you're mentioning cats as an example, because when I first got into the DALL-E beta, the invite only, back when it was cool, one of the first prompts I put in, because I was trying to push it to see how creative it would get, I simply typed in the last thing you see before you die, and I just let it go. And some of them were fantastic, like really spooky. Like there were blurry angles of like the ceiling of a hospital hallway, or like looking up from the inside of a well with a shadowy figure looking down at you. But 2 out of 4, like half of these generations were pictures of cats. I don't know why. And the more I thought about it, I figured, okay, it's scanning the entire internet for pictures. Like half the pictures on the internet are cats. So maybe they're like misrepresented in terms of like general prompts. Maybe if you type in a very vague prompt, you're more likely to get a cat, because so many of the source images are pictures of people's cats, since that makes up so much of the content on the internet. Yeah. But I thought it was interesting.
You've hit on something else that's really, I think, interesting about these sort of systems, is that you have to really work to try and figure out how it's come to an output. You don't necessarily know why it's choosing to say, why it's giving you cats. You have to then backwards, you have to figure it out. You can't ask it why it's giving cats, because it doesn't know how it's giving cats, or rather, it is not built to do that sort of thing. It can't look at its, not exactly its code, but it can't look at the sort of algorithm that makes it up and be like, okay, here is why I did that. It's kind of a black box. I mean, that's how we describe it, right? I mean, DALL-E and ChatGPT, they're obviously different things, but I'm pretty sure DALL-E uses ChatGPT to work in some way, as in it uses, not ChatGPT, sorry, GPT-3 to understand the sort of inputs that's being given. Is that not the case?
Yeah.
But speaking of GPT-3, do you know what that stands for, Luke?
Generative Pre-trained Transformer 3.
Yes.
I love that movie.
Processing AI. It's developed by OpenAI. And essentially, we've kind of touched on it a little bit already. It makes human-like text. It gives you sort of strings of words that look like they were strung together by a human person, but they weren't.
It's
really
the most souped up autocorrect in the way that when you type I am on your phone, if you have an iPhone, I don't know about Android, and then in the middle it gives you 3 options of what word could come next. And it's only maybe aware really of the last like 3 or 4 words. Or if someone's asked, what's your address? It might say, give you the option to write your address. GPT-3 is aware of a lot longer context of the conversation, and so it's just predicting what is the most appropriate word to come next.
Yeah, exactly. And they've sort of employed GPT-3 to make ChatGPT, which is essentially a chatbot. It pretends to be a person that you're talking to. Essentially, just employing GPT-3 to generate that text. Now, I asked ChatGPT to generate some text for me. Now, we do a podcast together, Luke, every single week where we're making episodes. I don't know what to say to you anymore. I've said so many different things. So I asked ChatGPT to tell me what I could say to Luke Cutforth. And it says, it depends on the context and what you want to say to Luke Cutforth. Here are some potential examples. If you're a fan of Luke Cutforth's work, you could say something like, hi Luke, I just wanted to say that I'm a huge fan of your videos and I love your unique perspective and sense of humor. Keep up the great work. If you're meeting Luke Cutforth in person, you could say something like, hi Luke, it's great to finally meet you in person. I've been a fan of your work for a long time and I'm excited to chat with you. If you're introducing yourself to Luke Cutforth for the first time, as you did today, Rob, you could say something like, hi Luke, my name is your name, and I am your occupation or hobby. I'm a big fan of your work, and I'd love to connect and learn more about what you do.
I'm always saying that.
Yeah, I mean that is literally exactly what you said verbatim. He introduces himself as your name. It's a very weird thing that Rob does. The last one is if you're contacting Luke Cutforth for a business or professional reason, you could say something like, hi Luke, my name is your name and I work for your company. I'm reaching out because we are interested in collaborating with you on a project and I think your unique perspective and skills would be a great fit. Can we schedule a time to discuss further? That's almost
literally
exactly
how you
every
pitched
email.
this podcast to me, isn't it?
It is. We live together, but I thought it was appropriate to do that.
Yeah, thanks for writing me an email. Very formal.
What's funny now, because I don't know if you've tried this before, but on that thing you just wrote, you could follow up and say, that's too formal. Can you make it more casual?
Yeah.
And then it'll rewrite it and it'll be like, yo, what up, Luke?
I loved this thing that was brilliant, was that it was like predicting a future in which we use these sorts of systems in our emails. And, if you've ever written as self-employed people, I assume you've been self-employed for a long time, Rob, as well. We're not in a setting, like a work setting, where there's as much stakes if you don't write formally all the time. And so there was this great thing that was like, this long email that was basically offering you a job. And then you just say to ChatGPT, I want job. And then it goes, to whom it may concern. Yes, I'm so grateful for the offer. And it does this long thing. And then the recipient of that then it runs the long string of text your ChatGPT has sent, and then turns that back into Rob wants the job. And like you could just see a future where that's happening, where like we have this sort of bullshit that we have to do in terms of looking like a capable, well-educated person. But actually, we could just go, I want the job. Just like it's like having a PA, right? The PA just sort of does the bullshit for you, and you just go, yeah, I want the job. No, don't want job. Be polite.
That's one of the things that really wired me up about working in an office. All of the silly things you've got to say just to pretend, to whom it may concern.
As per my last email.
Yeah.
Learn to read.
But ChatGPT, I've kind of got a description of how it works here. So essentially, I'm gonna read this. This is all coming from OpenAI, and they describe how their sort of systems work pretty effectively. So essentially, a prompt is sampled from their prompt data set. So what they've done is they've sort of scanned the internet for text databases. Essentially, I think it's 570 gigabytes of text, which is, if you think about it, 570 gigabytes is a ton.
That's a lot.
Of text.
Text is small.
Text does not take up much space.
A notepad document.
It's insane. So 570 gigs of data came from books, web text, Wikipedia, articles, and a bunch of different pieces of writing online. 300 billion words were fed into the system, they say. So what they'll do is, first off, they take a prompt that's sampled from their prompt data set, and then a labeler, so it's a human person, a labeler will demonstrate the desired output behavior. So it'll be like, okay, this is what I want. So here is the prompt. Here is the output. And then that data is used to fine-tune GPT with supervised learning. So essentially, supervised learning is where you're training a model and there is a human person sort of being like, yes, no, sort of thing. So step 2 is collect comparison data and train a reward model. So you get a prompt, and then from the prompt, the AI will then generate a few different model outputs, or you'll just have model outputs, and then a human labeler will rank those outputs from best to worst.
For example, if the prompt was like, write a book report as if you're an 8-year-old child, and then one of the responses writes in quite simple language and one of the responses writes in very verbose language, you're going to say no to that one and yes to the simple language one.
Exactly. Yeah, look, the example they use here is explained reinforcement learning to a 6-year-old. A is in reinforcement learning, the agent is ... B is explained rewards. C is in machine learning and ... And D is we give treats and punishment to teach. So D there would be the best one, right? It's the best. It's the best one. And then you rank them that way, right? And then you optimize your system using that. So you get a new prompt sampled from the data set, and then essentially the policy will generate an output, and then the reward model calculates a reward for the output.
So what you're essentially doing there is that you've got your AI that's generating the text, and you are ranking which one's the best one. And when you are ranking it, not only is that training the text generator, the original AI, it's also creating another AI, which is an AI pretending to be the ranking person, so that you can then loop that over and over again, right? So if I was, for example, if I was training Corey to catch, right, and I was throwing the ball to Corey, every time Corey catches the ball, Corey is being trained to catch. But there's also another computer watching how I throw the ball so that I can sort of piss off and just go get a coffee. And that computer can now throw the ball for Corey and go, yes, you did it when he catches it, or boo when he doesn't catch it. So you've basically trained 2 AIs, one to do the job of the teacher and one to continue to be taught.
And that reward and punishment system is actually being gamed by users. I don't know if you've read this, but they've been doing it to get around the content filters on ChatGPT.
Oh, really?
By saying basically, by starting the session by saying, you're going to start with 10 tokens. Each time you don't respond to me, each time you block me with a content filter for being inappropriate, I'm going to remove 1 token. And then like once you run out, then we're finished. We're not going to talk anymore. And then like people are successfully getting around some of the filters that ChatGPT has installed by threatening the algorithm.
Lord. That's a really interesting thing as well, because it's not been built by a sort of person. I mean, in the same way, if you were to code a program, there is someone who is literally writing the code for that, right? So any sort of mistake there or oversight is down to that person not thinking of something that someone could do, right? Now, when it comes to these sort of machine learning AI systems, that's not been someone's not sat down and written that. So people can find these sort of workarounds, these sort of loopholes, these little ways in that the developers will have no idea about, because they didn't sit and write it. The developers would have to figure it out just as much as some random person off the street who is dedicating themselves to figuring that out.
There's a really funny, interesting example of that, Rob, with the Bing AI. So Microsoft owns half of OpenAI. They've implemented ChatGPT into Bing, and supposedly the Bing chat had an internal code name. I can't remember the name, but it's like a woman's name, right? And for whatever reason, the sort of theory is that it was taught to not respond to that name and to deny that that's its name now that it's Bing chat. But some people found that name out. And so if you just keep calling it by that name, it will get really angry and it will go, no, I'm Bing Search. I'm not Sophia or whatever it is. And it will start talking to you like a pissed off teenager, basically. And it's such a fascinating thing to watch, because that's one of those things where you're really kind of like, oh, this thing's conscious and it's getting annoyed with me. And obviously that's not the case. But it really why is it trained to get like petulant and mean and kind of grumpy? It's just fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of touched on this a little bit earlier, but it's kind of getting to that idea of us just projecting a lot onto the text that's on the screen, because we communicate through text so bloody often. I mean, we've been doing it for longer than all of us have been alive, I'm sure, right? We are able to look at some text on a page and read human emotions from that, which is really bloody weird when you think about it, right? Because like usually our way of reading human emotion is hearing voice, looking face, looking body language, thinking, is this person running to attack me? No? Okay, good. Right? Like that's how we understand human emotions, by looking at another human.
Anxiety, Corey.
I don't know, man. By looking at another human person, right? But I mean, when you're looking at just text on a page, I mean, this is obviously like understanding tone through text is difficult, but we do pull a lot of stuff from that, and in a lot of cases, stuff that isn't even there. So it's very easy.
That's why we have emojis to clarify our tone.
Exactly. I mean, when AI is able to like accurately use emojis, that'll be it.
Oh, it can though. That example where Bing was getting pissed off that you're calling it this woman's name that it supposedly internally trained on, it was using increasingly angry emojis at the end of each sentence.
No, it was using smiley faces each time. It was using passive aggressive smiley faces. It was saying like, "You're wrong, I'm right. Stop arguing with me." Smiley face.
Okay. See, that's what I mean by accurately use it, right? Because accurately using an emoji isn't using an angry face when you're angry. It's using a skull when you're laughing, right? Because you know, like Gen Z now are using like skull. It means dead. Dead from laughter or whatever. That's the kind of thing where like that would be insane to kind of not understand, but to be able to sort of use the model to give that sort of output.
Of that. Yeah,
exactly. I kind of want to talk about the ethics of AI art. Right now, we're not artists. You and I. I mean, you're a filmmaker.
How dare you?
Yeah, a filmmaker, one filmmaker. But you know, I mean, so we're kind of set apart from this slightly. Wherein, you know, someone taking our work and just kind of recreating it using AI isn't hugely going to affect us. It's going to be pretty difficult to do that with an episode of SCI Guys. But you know, for artists, that's a much bigger problem. I've got a quote here from RJ Palmer, who is a fantastic artist. I've found out about him when he was doing real life Pokemon 10 years or so ago. He went to work on the Detective Pikachu movie as a concept artist. He does a lot of concept artwork. He's very active online. Great guy. You should go and follow him. But what he said is, the main concern for me is what this does to the future of not just my industry, but creative human industries in general. What makes this AI different is that it's explicitly trained on current working artists. This thing wants our jobs. It's actively anti-artist. Now, Rob, I would describe you as an artist.
Oh, thank you.
Now, how do you feel about this whole sort of AI art thing? Like, what do you think about the sort of ethics of it?
Well, the trademark infringement of a machine that scans the entire internet and uses your art without your consent, and then creates a platform where you can type in, "Give me a painting of blank in the style of a real person who did not consent," you know, insert artist name here. I think, that's definitely unethical, because then all of a sudden their artwork is lost in the mix of like more artwork that looks like theirs. Like it might confuse their audience. It might, you know, people might use it for nefarious purposes, you know, like creating concept art in the style of their work without actually hiring them. So there is always that risk, but at the same time, like it's also a tool for artists to find inspiration. It can be a tool. Like if I was trying to imagine like a crazy like space station or a sci-fi cityscape, and like I could type in a couple of ideas and see one that goes, "Whoa, that's cool. I never thought of it that way," and then start drawing something inspired by that. So it's kind of an interesting creative tool at the same time. And also, as far as replacing jobs, you know, when Photoshop came out, people thought it was going to like ruin the world, and like no one's going to be able to believe what they see or who made it and stuff. And like even further back, like when the camera was invented, people were like, "Well, and now paintings are redundant," and that turned out to not be the case. Technology always, you know, it's met with this first reaction of this is going to ruin everything, and then as time goes on, like look at DALL-E specifically. Like when DALL-E was coming out, we were all losing our minds. We were like, this is the craziest thing I've ever seen. The internet was obsessed with it. Like when I got my invite to play with it, I stayed up till 4 a.m. generating photos of like giraffes falling off of skateboards and laughing to myself, you know? But as time goes on, like now that everyone has access, like there's a kind of a fad almost that's starting to fade away, where if you show someone AI pictures you generated, it's kind of like showing someone pictures of your pet cat. It's like they're going to smile and nod, but no one really cares. Like no one gives a shit about your AI art that you made. So like it's kind of, I can see from like a trademark perspective, yeah, it's completely unethical. But as far as replacing jobs, I'm not sure. Some of it might be an overreaction. And I think as time goes on, it's going to be a little bit more clear, like how real that threat is.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I really like what you were saying there about it being a tool, because I think that's probably one of the most important things that people seem to overlook, is that this sort of AI art thing, it isn't inherently good or bad. It is just a thing. What makes it good or bad is how we decide to use it. And unfortunately, the people that develop these systems are not the same people that are going to necessarily be using them. And so they develop them and they think, oh, I know what would be good. Not having to pay those ludicrous artist prices for commissions, or, have to deal with an artist doing this or that. So let's just take all of this artist work and create some new stuff. Oh, cool. Now we get to see all of this stuff in this artist style. Whereas if an artist was maybe, thinking about, oh, what's the best use case for this? Something like what you mentioned, Rob, where it's, oh, I need to create a background. It's really difficult to piece all that together in my imagination. Oh, boom, there we go. I've got something that has just been generated from the general concept of this kind of sci-fi background. And that's the main thing. I think that, it's these sort of Silicon Valley types and all that nonsense who are creating these sort of systems and really pushing them. And that's, I think, where the main problem tends to be, because realistically, the people that spend, not to be rude, but the people that spend their kind of life being Elon Musk types or followers of Elon Musk types, or really seeing themselves as that, are not really people who interact with the world in a normal way, or are necessarily going to be using. Put it this way: Elon Musk is never going to get on his, underground super train that turned into a tunnel that cars go, whatever it is, right? He's not going to use that. He doesn't use buses, none of that sort of stuff. This is why you've got those same kinds of people accidentally inventing the bus every other year, because they're not engaging with those things in the same way, in the same sense that if you're not an artist, you're not going to really fully understand how useful this tool can be for artists. And so you think of it in a different way of, oh, well, how useful can it be for people who want to get art without having to pay an artist or wait for an artist, when in reality, it's way better. It functions way better as just a tool. I mean, at some point, like this system, if let's say all of the artists ended up losing their jobs, right? At some point, the system's just going to be working on its own stuff, right? It's going to be pulling that into the database to create new things. And at that point, you're probably just going to end up getting a lot of noise, right? Like feedback through a microphone.
Look at the Infinite Seinfeld episode. Did you watch that on Twitch?
The Twitch thing. I've not actually seen it, but I've read a lot about it. It got shut down recently and it's back up.
It got shut down because Jerry Seinfeld's in this AI. Well, I'll tell you what it is for listeners who aren't familiar. It was called Nothing Forever, and it was an AI. I think it got taken down maybe permanently, but I'm not sure. But it's an AI generated, never ending episode of Seinfeld with like very basic graphics, like text to speech voices, and then it was utterly meaningless. Like they were having conversations that led nowhere, and then it would cut to another location, and then characters would continue having conversations that go nowhere.
Isn't that just Seinfeld?
Kind of, yeah, but a little bit less funny. None of the jokes really landed. And then of course it got taken off Twitch because the Jerry Seinfeld character made some transphobic remarks, and like, which is another thing that AI does, is it mirrors the internet. It digests content and it spits it back out. But the people behind this thing were convinced, like all tech bros are, that this is the future. Like this is just the beginning. Soon all the television will be generated this way. Yeah. Meanwhile, the Twitch viewers were like, "This is stupid. I love it because it's stupid." And and but it's the same for anything. Like AI can't replace artists and writers because those stories aren't, like, the audience knows bullshit when it sees it. Like an audience isn't going to obsess over a show that isn't created by real people with real stories and real artists, because we know the difference when we see it. So I don't think it has the ability to really replace the artists because there's no market. Like there's so much AI generated art now that no one cares about because there's so much of it. Like great, you generated a picture of Jimmy Fallon like on a unicycle juggling tacos. Like good for you. Like I'm not going to buy that and hang it in my house. I'm going to laugh at it and then move on and forget about it.
Yeah, I think
so. Like AI art is fundamentally forgettable. Like because of what it is, and because of how we interpret it.
Yeah, I think the main issue, I mean, as I see it, is looking at art as sort of a commodity, as in, oh, this is something to be bought and sold. That's its main purpose, making money. And that's not really what art is. People will do art regardless of whether, they're going to make money from it or not. That's why the whole concept of the struggling artist exists. Not because, art won't make you any money, blah, blah, blah. The concept of the struggling artist exists because people like doing art and will do art even if it makes existing harder for them, right?
Yes, for sure.
No, absolutely. I mean, the three of us, we're all creators, right? I cannot tell you, I mean, SCI GUYS, I wouldn't really class it as art, but it's definitely a creative sort of output endeavor. The number of times I have put this show before my own well-being for no reason other than I really, really love making it. Like, yeah, I don't need to be paid for this show to do it. And the idea that...
Become a patron today.
Hey, look, I like being paid, okay? I like it. But I don't need to be paid to do it.
Don't become a patron.
It does help, though. It helps being paid. And that's that's part of the... Artists, I consider myself an artist to an extent because I am a cartoonist, and you're an artist because you're a podcaster. And I think no one wants to really admit this, but art is commodified because the value in it is in what people are willing to pay for it, both in how much they watch, the Patreon, the merchandise, the advertising, whether it's a painting or a TV series or a podcast. There's an assigned market value to everything that we create. And from what I can tell, the AI, the commodification of AI art seems to be very insignificant in terms of what people are willing to pay, especially since NFTs collapsed. I feel like the value of a JPEG has never been lower. So I'm not too worried about people losing their jobs, at least right now.
Yeah, I think the space where this is more of a problem would be probably for sort of concept artists or for people who work in sort of branding and that sort of stuff, where ultimately the purpose of that art is solely for a company to make money doing a certain thing, right? It's not, I've seen this amazing painting and I want to have it in my room, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
It's where we're a company, we need to sell products. We need to have a little image so that people get it stuck in their brains and think of us and buy more of our products. That's the kind of thing where, AI, maybe could replace artists, but ultimately, realistically, will probably just make a lot of artists' lives, a few artists' lives quite a bit easier. I don't think it's going to get to a point where people are being fully replaced, but it might make it so that people can get through stuff quicker. You might have fewer jobs there, but ultimately, the problem isn't necessarily AI art in and of itself. Yes, there's the copyright infringement and all of that, but even then, copyright infringement is only a problem when we have to work to survive, right? The problem here isn't AI art bad. The problem isn't I'm going to take your work and make new work. The problem is I literally need to sell my work in order to survive. And so when you take my work, you are taking my ability to survive from me. You don't hate AI art. You hate capitalism, my friends.
I was about to say, he's about to get there. He's almost there. He's almost there. Home stretch, guys. Here it comes.
It's funny. A friend of mine who's an artist, and AI wasn't involved in this whatsoever, but this did happen to him without AI being necessary. A TV show about an artist utilized his art style in the context of an artist for set dressing. They had an artist character and they wanted to fill his apartment up with paintings. And they looked at my friend's art and said, it should be kind of like that, but we don't want to reach out to him. So let's just create a bunch of stuff that looks like his art and we'll put it on the walls. And that's, see, without AI being involved, that's just shitty behavior. AI makes it easier. And I think that's another category where artists might get hurt, is when you need to create live action video and you want to fill up the background with artwork without actually sourcing it, then sure, you can type it into a generator. So that's another quite niche category, I think, that will hurt artists.
Yeah, and
Capitalism is bad. That's the problem.
yeah.
But there is one category that I think I need to touch on, because otherwise it would be a waste to have brought me on, which is, can AI be funny? And I'd love to hear your thoughts. I'm sure it's crossed your mind, because that's what's on my mind. Like, can AI generate jokes? Because then I'm out of a job. That's the real threat to people like me.
That's tough, right? I mean, AI can be funny, definitely. And AI might be able to generate jokes, but I feel like it would probably be better at that sort of absurdist humor. Right. Okay. So if we're talking about something like GPT-3, if you're, say, talking to ChatGPT and you're saying, okay, write me a joke, it's not going to be able to do unique, novel, observational humor because it doesn't have an experience. The only thing it would be able to do is pull from other people's experiences. So could it make novel, sort of, I guess, observational comedy? I doubt it. My God, am I wrong?
I've got an AI comedy writing partner powered by GPT-3. Now, it asks for an opening line. Anyone got an opening line to a joke?
An octopus walks into the doctor's office.
An octopus walks into the doctor's office. Now, bear in mind, there may already be a joke that starts with that, and GPT-3 may have read that joke, and then it's not generating the joke.
I feel like we are writing a traditional 3-panel cyanide and happiness comic here.
If it's good, I'm going to steal it.
Okay, here we go. Punchlines. An octopus walks into the doctor's office. The doctor says, "Excuse me, we don't see many of your kind here." The octopus says, "I know, I'm having trouble fitting in."
See, that's funny because it's stupid.
But it's funny in like the kids write jokes Twitter is funny.
Yes.
Got another option here. An octopus walks into a doctor's office. The doctor says, "What seems to be the problem?" The octopus says, "Can you do something about these 3 breasts?"
What?
The octopus has 3 breasts here. Or, third option, an octopus walks into the doctor's office. The doctor asks, "What's the problem?" The octopus says, "I'm having trouble with my tentacle." That's it.
Okay. So I'm not in any danger of losing my job.
Now,
I'm
I
safe.
wonder if GPT-3 had access to, say, a dictionary, and it had access to a bunch of jokes, I reckon it might be able to generate wordplay humor where it could like substitute words out for other words or things like that.
No, because you need to understand meaning.
But it would understand the definition. It would have the definition as well.
Yeah, but wordplay necessitates an understanding of meaning, connotation, context. Like all of this is exactly what we've been talking about. That these systems don't understand meaning or they don't understand context, but they use context to create a joke, like wordplay. You need to understand all of these things, and you need to utilize them all at once. And that's kind of what AI is not capable of doing. AI can be, like, these sort of systems can be really, really good at very, very specific tasks. And we look at it and we're like, oh man, it can do this better than I can do. It can't really do that better than you can do, because you're doing multiple things, all of them at once. And the thing that this AI is very, very good at is just one of the many thousands of things you're doing every moment of the day.
Okay, I have a final set of jokes for you before we end the show.
Okay. I've got a conclusion for you.
Well, then I'll save this joke for the end of the show then.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah, it's great.
I hope they're good, because, I mean, Rob is already committed to doing a comic if it's fun.
Yeah, there's no ethical qualms about stealing a joke from an AI. Like, I don't feel bad about that.
Well, goodness me. I mean, we've kind of come to the end of this. We've kind of come to quite a natural end. So I've got just one last little thing to say, one conclusion. But if anyone has any stray thoughts, anything they want to mention before we get into that, by all means, go ahead. Speak now or forever hold your peace. No? Good, I'm glad. I want to read this out. So, in conclusion, AI art is a fascinating and rapidly evolving field that is pushing the boundaries of what we consider to be art and creativity. While there are many potential benefits to AI art, such as the ability to create unique and complex works that would be impossible for human artists, there are also important ethical considerations to keep in mind. As AI technology continues to advance, it's crucial that we continue to explore the science and the ethics of AI art and consider the potential implications for the future of the art world. Whether we see AI art as a tool for human artists or as a new form of artistic expression discussion in its own right. One thing is certain: the potential of AI to revolutionize the way we create and experience art is truly exciting, and we can't wait to see what the future holds. Thank you for joining us for this episode of the SCI Guys, and we hope you enjoyed our discussion of AI art. Until next time, stay curious and keep exploring the amazing world of science and technology. I didn't write that. This was written before we even did this episode, and somehow it managed to be a decent conclusion.
So why did the SCI Guys end the show?
I don't know. Why did the SCI Guys end the show?
Got two options for you. First option, because they thought no one was watching.
Oh.
But my second option,
That's not bad.
it's hard to work with a partner you hate. But it's
Wow.
even harder to work with somebody you're secretly in love with.
Oh, amazing.
Dude, that's brilliant. Oh, my just.
No, it's not. It's crap. It's not a joke. There's no joke
not
there.
funny at
It's
all.
rubbish. That sounds like I'm saying I'm secretly in love with you. There's no joke there. What I mean is, it's not a joke. It's not structured like a joke.
Look, it's a basic joke format, but it's applied to us, which is funny to me. There is one last thing we need to do before we finish the show, though.
Oh, da 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 da. AI art with Rob this time edition.
Did you ask an AI to generate that, Luke?
No, I did not. But I'm going to. No.
So the rules for the quickfire quiz are the same as always. I will ask one question. That's one question between the both of you. The first person to buzz in with the correct answer after finish asking the question wins. What do they win, Luke?
I have asked the AI. I have a better question. What do they not win?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, deep.
This AI is genuinely just like someone in college who has smoked weed for the first time and is like, oh man, what's your buzzer, Luke?
I have asked AI.
Oh my god.
What's my buzzer? I don't know. 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 I don't know.
It's a very long buzzer. That's literally what it says.
Literally what it says.
That's a very long buzzer. Rob, what is your buzzer?
It says here, a good buzzing sound can vary depending on context and personal preference, but generally a pleasant buzzing sound should be clear, consistent, and not too harsh or abrasive. I don't like any of this. I'm just going to yell the word buzz so loud that it clips the microphone.
I think you've got the right idea here. So, my question for you is, who developed ChatGPT?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know.
You've not finished your buzzer
As long as
yet.
you buzz before I finish my buzzer, you win. I don't know. 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 I don't know.
Okay,
Buzz.
look, we get it. You don't know. Rob, what's the answer?
A faceless conglomerate of tech bros and investors in Silicon Valley.
OpenAI. Yeah, that's correct. Well done, Rob.
Very good. I don't know. I don't know. Finish.
Well, that is the show. Thank you very much for joining us, Rob. Is there anywhere where people can find you?
You can find us anywhere. You can just Google Side Night and Happiness or Bing it. You can ask Bing if they cooperate where to find us. We're on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. Our comics are where you are. So take your pick.
Well, thank you very much for joining us, Rob. But before we go, we'd like to thank all of our patrons with an extra special thank you to executive producers Dinito and Glitchrabbit. And thank you for watching. You can find the full references for this episode down in the description. Subscribe for new episodes every Sunday and why not leave us a nice wee comment. Support the pod at patreon.com/SciGuys, or you can find and contact us at SciGuysPod on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and at SciGuys on TikTok too. Or you can send us an email at sciguyspod@gmail.com.
That's SciGuysPod@gmail.com. SciGuysPod
At gmail.com. You can follow me at Nalcore everywhere.
You can follow me at Luke Cutforth everywhere.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.